สวัสดีค่ะ and welcome back to Ed Brain Site here on GBN Station. You are now with me, Kankanok Wishitpan. Today we have a complete biography of a famous Buddhist historical figure, พระมงคลเทพมุนีสดจันทสโร the rediscoverer of Visha Dhammagaya. Let's get started.
Just as the moon disperses the darkness of the night by its light, giving confidence and safety to nighttime travelers, the invaluable teachings of the Lord Buddha offer safety to all those who must navigate the cycle of existence towards perfection in life. On the full moon day of each month, Buddhists throughout the world reflect upon the great compassion of the Lord Buddha in discovering and teaching Dhamma for the benefit of all beings. However, about 500 years after the final passing of the Lord Buddha, although the theoretical teachings of the Lord Buddha were compiled and preserved in the Buddhist scriptures, the practical teachings which allowed others to become enlightened in his footsteps disappeared from the world. It was only 2,000 years later that a great monk was to sacrifice his life for Buddhism in order to rediscover this missing core of the practical teaching once known to the Lord Buddha. It was on the full moon day of October 1917 that a Buddhist monk named Sotjantataro Bhikkhu made the determined vow to meditate to the death if he could not rediscover some small part of the original teachings the Lord Buddha brought to the world. Whatever happens, if I cannot attain even a fragment of the truth which the Lord Buddha knew, I will sit to the death. If I die, my actions will be a model of goodness for monks and Buddhists of later generations. This will be my virtue if I should die. It was only after striving with the utmost resolve to the degree he was prepared to lay down his life that he was able to attain Dhammagaya, a rediscovery of unrivaled significance for all inquests of enlightenment through meditation, and notable in that his discovery was a precedent never before touched upon by his contemporary masters of meditation or in manuals of practice. A path of practice revealed by cultivating the mind along the middle way, the path to an end of all suffering. หลวงปู่วัดปากน้ำพระมงคลเทพมุนี was born Sot Mi Gao Noi on the 10th of October 1984 in Songpinong district in Suphanburi, Thailand. His family home overlooked the village temple from the opposite bank of the river. His father was Kongun Mi Gao Noi and his mother was Sutjai. He was the second born of 5 children. His family was in the rice trading business, and they shipped rice by barge in Songpinong and the adjoining districts. He showed intellect, determination, and steadfastness of character from an early age, never resting from any task he had set his mind to until achieving success. He helped his parents from an early age. It was only at the age of 9 that he had the chance to commence his formal education when his uncle became a monk at Songpinong Temple. Later he continued his study at Wat Bang Pla, Bangleng, Nakhon Pathom until being well versed in Thai and Kham languages. Only then did he return to help his parents with the family business. In his teenage years, the family relied upon him for most of their business affairs and trading voyages to the neighboring towns. At the age of 14, his father passed away, leaving him in charge of the business and the family alike. He was able to keep all the work in hand despite his tender years and was well accepted by his crew because of his sincerity, wisdom, and compassion. Business prospered year by year until his family gained a reputation for its financial standing. One day, Returning upstream to Song Pinang, the barge empty but carrying cash from the rice sale, he encountered dangerous rapids near Nakhon Chai Sea. To avoid difficulty in making headway, he took a shortcut through a narrow, pirate-infested creek called Bang E 10. Usually barges would only risk that route in convoys, but that day he found himself alone. Sensing foreboding, he had his crew man the helm, knowing all too well that pirates would attack the helmsman first, thinking him to be the owner. He availed himself of an 8-shot rifle and hit in the bow. However, upon further reflection, he felt ashamed of himself for letting others risk their lives in his place. Thinking compassionately of his crew, he pondered, "All the crew gets from me for looking after this wretched barge is 10 to 15 baht a month. Why should I let them be the first to die when I'm the one who owns it? If disaster strikes, they should look after their own skins because they have wives and children dependent on them for the rice in their bellies." That day, he was to escape danger unscathed, but the crisis brought home the futility of the household life. He vowed to himself that he would renounce the worldly life and become a monk as soon as he could guarantee financial security of his family for the rest of their lives in his absence. At the time he made his vow, he was barely 19. However, he didn't take his own ambitions lightly. He took 3 years to amass sufficient wealth to support his family, only then entering the monastery for lifelong ordination. หลวงปู่วัดปักน้ำ took ordination at Song Pinang Temple and was given the monastic name of Jantatsaro Bhikkhu. He resided at that temple only for one rainy season before traveling to Bangkok to further his studies at Wat Jetupon in both scriptural and meditational subjects. He was outstandingly conscientious in his study of the scriptures from renowned teachers, traveling regularly to Wat Arun on the opposite banks of the Chao Phraya River, Wat Mahathat, Wat Sutat, and Wat Sam Prum in search of knowledge. He even sought extra scriptural knowledge by spending time in temples such as Wat Phra Sri Ratana Mahathat, Suphanburi, and returned periodically to his home temple at Song Pinang. From the earliest days of his ordination onward, Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam devoted the best part of his time to training himself in meditation. He meditated daily without exception and roamed from temple to temple in quest of knowledge pertaining to the proper way to meditate. In his 12th year as a monk, he found himself at Wat Bodbon, Bang Khu Wieng in Nonthaburi. In the middle of his rainy season, he reflected on the resolve to ordain he had had in his heart since the age of 19. He realized that although he was now in his 12th reign, he still had not attained direct experience of any small fragment of the Buddha's enlightenment. On the full moon day of October 1917, he thus felt inspired to strive to the utmost. When he returned from alms round that morning, he organized his things to minimize any remaining worries in his mind and made his way to the main chapel to sit for meditation. He made up his mind that if he were not to hear the sound of the midday drums, he would not move from his meditation mat. He meditated using the mantra Samma Arahang, but soon started to experience extreme pain throughout his body. He endured the pain by virtue of the vow he had made and eventually managed to transcend the pain. His mind became more and more serene until it came to a standstill at a single point at his diaphragm, appearing as a bright sphere, the size of a yolk of an egg, steadfast and joyous at his center. The same evening, having completed his various duties, he returned to the main chapel for the second time for meditation and again vowed, O Lord, impart to me the Dhamma which you attain on the day of your enlightenment. If my enlightenment will be a virtue and benefit to Buddhism, then please, O Lord, transport me to the greatest Dhamma. I shall be thy champion to maintain and uphold the greatness of thy teachings. But should my enlightenment be in vain, of no benefit to thy teachings, then Lord, I will sacrifice my life in this meditation as the only offering I have for thee. The bright, clear sphere from earlier that day that was still firmly established at the center of his body now became brighter and clearer at his center. It expanded and became as bright as the midday sun. The sound of the ancient word Majjhima Patipatta, or the middle way, was mysteriously to be heard at the center of his body. He was able to see a bright spot at the center of his body, and as he expanded the sphere, it enlarged and disappeared. He whispered to himself, "Ah, it's so hard like this. This is why no one could manage to achieve it. Perception, memory, thought, and cognition, all these things must come to a standstill and be united at one single point. Once the mind is still, these things cease to be. Once they cease to be, attainment can be realized." Stopping his mind continuously, he was able to attain Dhammagaya, or the body of enlightenment, a body which had an appearance similar to the Buddha image with the lotus bud at its top knot, but completely clean and pure like crystal. Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam continued and further refined his inner experience until at the end of his meditation, the vision of a temple appeared to him that he recognized as Wat Pang Pla, where he had studied in his youth. And it occurred to him that this must be the place where he must start to spread the Dhammagaya tradition. At the end of the rainy season, Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam transferred to Wat Pang Pla to teach the monks resident there. He was able to train 3 monks and 4 lay people to attain Dhammagaya in his footsteps. On the banks of Pasir Jalern Canal, there is a temple called Wat Pak Nam Pasir Jalern. By 1918, the position of abbot at that temple had been vacant for many years. His Excellency Somdet Phra Wanarat of Wat Phra Jetipon, who was the monastic governor of that district, consecrated Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam as the new abbot so that he wouldn't have to continue his nomadic existence. Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam reluctantly accepted the title with the intention of remaining as the acting abbot for only 3 months, but eventually his position was made permanent. Taking on the duty of governing Wat Pak Nam was a heavy responsibility indeed for the new abbot, because neither the monks nor the devotees accepted him at first. It was only a minority who cooperated. The rest conspired to slander and discredit him. Often they were drunk and disorderly. Sometimes they made attempts on his life, even going as far as to try gunning Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam down in front of his congregation. In spite of his dangers, Luang Pu maintained, "We monks must never fight nor run away, but must persevere in our pursuit of wholesome deeds. This is the only way we can win at all times." He had to endure in the face of multitudinous problems and hindrances, while at the same time developing the temple in every way by encouraging the monks and novices to study both the scriptures and meditation. The number of monks in the monastic community of Wat Pak Nam gradually grew. Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam fulfilled his long-standing wish to open a college for scriptural studies and build a temple refectory. He supported the spiritual education of monks and lay devotees alike, and gave training in meditation for the congregation on a regular basis. His perseverance in teaching Buddhism, making the knowledge and inspiration to meditate became known in ever-broadening circles of society. Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam meditated consistently and used his knowledge of meditation to lead continually more subtle research in the true nature of life and the world, especially to quench the suffering of the human condition. He built a special building at his residence dedicated to this meditation research, calling it the Meditation Workshop. It was designated to be used for meditation research by 2 teams working in shifts, 24 hours a day. Only those who had attained Dhammagaya would be able to help with such research. The reputation of Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam and those doing meditation research spread far and wide in Thailand and abroad. There were even faithful Buddhists who traveled from overseas to ordain as monks and to train themselves at Wat Pak Nam. The first ever foreigner to ordain as a monk in Thailand ordained with Luang Pu at Wat Pak Nam. From the first day Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam became abbot, he had to bear a heavy burden indeed, whether it be the burden of scriptural and meditational education, the spread of the Dhammagaya knowledge, repair and expansion of the monastic facilities, and activities for the congregation. Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam rested little. Towards the end of his life, he became seriously ill with hypertension and a hernia. In spite of his illnesses, he never abandoned his meditation or teaching duties. He exhorted his disciples to always continue with their meditation and support the monastic community. At one time, when he was seriously ill, knowing that he wouldn't live much longer, he confided with his elder sister that he was anxious that there would be no successor to the Dhammagaya tradition. It was a few days later that the anxiety disappeared from his face, and he mentioned that the reason was that a successor has been born in Singburi province. He ordered Kunyai Jan Konok Yung, the nun most adept among his meditators, to remain at Wat Pak Nam as the heir to the Dhammagaya tradition, teaching meditation until the successor came to study with her. He added that he would not recover from his illness, that the medicine he took didn't reach the real illness because karma intervened to make it ineffective. Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam knew 5 years in advance of his impending death, warning his disciples of the fact. He was to pass away peacefully on the 3rd of February 1959 at Wat Pak Nam, Pasir Jalon, at the age of 74. Even though the light, Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam, shone forth to the world has now extinguished, but the flame of his teachings burns on in the form of the knowledge of the Dhammagaya, a legacy of meditation experience which brings insight into the importance in our lives of pursuing perfections and training ourselves to attain the Dhammagaya. As such knowledge of inner peace spreads out to the world, it continues to make no small contribution to the attainment of true peace in the world. Even to this day, the precious heritage of the knowledge of the Dhammagaya continues to flourish in all walks of society. Loyal followers of Luang Pu Wat Pak Nam now practice meditation throughout the world and continue to perpetuate his life's work and mission out of gratitude to he who rediscovered the Dhammagaya knowledge.
On this upcoming 137th birth anniversary of the great master Phra Mongkol Thep Muni Luang Pu, October 10th, 2021, I would like to invite everyone to take part in the online Dhammacakkappavattana Sut verse chanting ceremony via Zoom application. And for more information about this miraculous event, please check out our Facebook page, GBN US. It's time for us to say goodbye. อนุโมทนาบุญ สวัสดีค่ะ